Welcome to TV Africa News. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nahabi Kajura, but first to the headlines. Judiciary launches 1.2 billion shillings medical insurance scheme for its staff. And the National Drug Authority approves another COVID herbal supplementary drug. And survivors gather in displacement camp after Tigray rebel advance. And in our sports today, 5 hip postgraduates make Uganda Cranes great for Ethiopia friendly. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories. The Judiciary has launched a group of medical scheme to cater for all staff in a ceremony held in Kampala. The launch was presided over by the Judiciary Permanent Secretary Pius Bigirimana, flanked by the Chief Registrar on behalf of the top administration of the Judiciary. We have more on this report.
According to the Judiciary Permanent Secretary Pius Bigirimana, the scheme, the first of its kind for the institution, is billed at shillings 1.2 billion and supported by the government of Uganda. Bigirimana said the medical insurance scheme will benefit all judiciary staff in the different categories deployed across Uganda. He added that more than 2,300 judiciary staff in categories of justices, judges, registrars, magistrates, and administrative staff will access medical insurance from Jubilee Insurance Company, UAP Old Mutual Insurance, and Prudential Assurance. According to Bigirimana, the move will help address the high expenditure associated with medical care for the judiciary. The Judiciary Chief Registrar, Sarah Langasui, said management was compelled to introduce the medical insurance scheme to respond to health needs of staff because of their nature of work and the prevailing high cost of accessing medical services. At the function, medical insurance providers commended the judiciary for being one of the few government entities for taking a bold step by securing the health of its staff.
Thank you so much, our reporter. Now moving on, the National Drug Authority has approved another herbal drug to complement the treatment and management of COVID-19. Now the drug named Vidicin was unveiled in Barara City on Wednesday by pharmacologist Edward Kaziri, the proprietor of Kaziri Health Products. We have more on this report.
Mr. Kaziri said a year ago their research team embarked on a huge project aimed at finding out complementary treatment for COVID-19, which was in response to the pandemic that befell the world. He said scientists will keep making research to ensure that they get a cure for COVID-19 as the world continues to grapple with the pandemic. Mr. Kaziri said he used the drug on 270 COVID-19 patients on home-based care during the second lockdown as a complementary treatment, which helped the patients to avoid getting severe to seek for oxygen support. He said the drug does not treat COVID-19 and advised patients to seek medical treatment and home-based care as advised by health workers. Mr. Abias Ramili, the NDA spokesperson, said the drug has been notified as treatment for cough, sore throat, and flu. He said the manufacturer has been advised to carry out clinical trials before they can approve it as treatment for COVID-19. Mr. Kaziri said he has capacity to manufacture 3,000 cartons of Vidicin with about 100,000 doses in a day.
Moving on, since the introduction of oil palm cultivation in 2005 in Uganda, more farmers keep embracing the crop. Edwin Chiseka first planted oil palm in 2013 and shared some of his experience in the crop as well as the challenges ahead. Take a look at the story.
Edwin Chiseka said that the biggest challenge is the price fluctuation, and some farmers have now learned how to deal with it. The second challenge, according to Edwin, is about the fertilizers, which are expensive. He called on the government to look into the issue and have an input shop where a farmer can just walk in and pay for their fertilizers, but still at a fair price and not counterfeit fertilizers. A kilogram of edible vegetable oil costs $1, but this can be improved. Uganda's palm oil exports totaled $45 million in 2020. The government has partnered with private companies to strengthen and broaden the market for a crop that is turning lives around in one of Uganda's poorest districts. According to the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Finance, Ramadan Gobi, there has been a problem of markets where the emphasis must be put on how to industrialize the agriculture as well as implementing the manifesto of the current government. At least $280,000 is generated from palm oil on Sese Islands alone every month. There are not less than 1 million trees grown.
Thank you so much, our reporter. Let's go for a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In our international news today, police in Kenya's capital said on Thursday that 9 people are dead after a crane collapsed at high-rise construction site in Nairobi. Another crane tower was left standing alone after the jeep crashed to the ground. We have more.
Officer Muturi Mbogo said the crane collapsed at midday on Thursday while it was being dismantled by workers. He said another worker was seriously injured and the collapse is under investigation. A worker at the site, Michael Odiembo, said a crane fell after its work was completed on the 14th floor. The project to build a 14-story student hostel was being supervised by a Chinese construction firm where 2 Chinese engineers were among the victims, according to Odiembo. Plumber Dominic Morella told the media that he saw workers fall from the crane and that those on the ground fled the area.
Moving on in our international news today, in the city of Desi, a primary school has become a refuge for those displaced by the conflict in northern Ethiopia. Long confined to Tigray, the fighting has recently spread to 2 neighboring regions, Afar and Amhara. The rebels known as the Tigray People's Liberation Front have dismissed allegations they have committed atrocities as groundless pro-government propaganda. We have more on this report.
Heavy weapons used in the conflict has killed an untold number of civilians and displaced hundreds of thousands more. Their deed is ethnic cleansing, says one of them, referring to the TPLF rebels who stunned the world in June by retaking Tigray's capital Mekele before pushing into Amara and Afar. After seizing the farming villages in northern Ethiopia, rebels roamed the streets searching for young, able-bodied men who had fought alongside government forces. Before the day was over, the rebels had fatally shot 2 men in their homes and marched a third to a nearby river where they fired rounds into his back, according to 49-year-old Adise Wonde, who told the journalists he buried all 3. The alleged killings earlier this month in the village of Hara are just one example of gruesome abuses described by witnesses of Ethiopia's widening war. Long confined to Tigray, the conflict has recently spread to 2 neighboring regions, Afar and Amara, with heavy weapons fire killing an untold number of civilians and displacing hundreds of thousands more.
Moving on, with untreated sewage in the water and rubbish piled on the sand, pollution on Tripoli's Mediterranean coast is denying residents of the war-torn Libyan capital a much-needed escape. Now cans, plastic bags and bottles plague the water and shore. We have more on this report.
The Environment Ministry last month ordered the closure of a number of beaches along the 30-kilometer Greater Tripoli coastline despite the roasting summer heat. Abdel Basset Al-Miri, the ministry official in charge of monitoring the coast, said that the situation is catastrophic, adding that they need quick solutions for this problem because it harms the environment just as much as it harms the people. Daily discharges of untreated sewage from capital's 2 million population make this the most polluted section of the North African country's 1,770-kilometer coastline. On one beach near a large hotel, open-air rivulets channel untreated wastewater into the sea, where a few young men brave the contaminated waters in search of coal. Libya's infrastructure has been devastated by a decade of conflict, state collapse and neglect since the 2011 overthrow and killing of Muammar Gaddafi in a NATO-backed rebellion. But Tripoli's only sewage works closed years before that, like many industrial facilities, shuttered for lack of maintenance or funding. As a result, all of Tripoli's wastewater goes directly into the Mediterranean.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Now, dozens of students at an Islamic seminary in western Nigeria who were abducted nearly 3 months ago and 6 of whom died in captivity have been freed, according to the school's principal announcement. Our reporter has more.
On May 30th, about 200 heavily armed men invaded the town of Tegina in Niger State, western Nigeria, and kidnapped 136 students from the private Muslim school Salihu Tanko. 6 of the Tegina students died in captivity and 15 others managed to escape in June, according to the school's management. A parent, Fatih Abdullahi, whose 18-year-old daughter and 15-year-old son were among the abducted students, confirmed that her children were free. An emissary sent in early in August by the parents to hand over a ransom of 30 million naira in exchange for the release of the children had returned empty-handed. Northwestern and central Nigeria have seen an increase in attacks, looting, and mass kidnappings by criminal gangs known locally as bandits. But this year, gangs have begun targeting school children and students for ransom. About 1,000 school children and students have been abducted since December, when gangs began targeting schools. Most have been released after negotiations, but hundreds remain trapped in camps hidden in the forests.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Let's go for a quick break. We shall come back with the business news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In a business news today, Moroccan Foreign Minister Nasser Bourita says his country is keen to maintain strong ties with Libya after meeting with member of the Libyan Presidential Council, Abdullah Al-Lafi, in Rabat. We have more.
During a joint press briefing, Mr. Bourita stated that Morocco will stand by Libya unconditionally to help promote security and stability of the country. He said that their meeting focused on 2 main points, the first being the bilateral relations between the 2 countries and the very strong and deep ties that bind the 2 brotherly people. He added that he conveyed to the Vice President of the Libyan Presidential Council, Abdul Al-Lafi, that His Majesty the King is keen to maintain these strong ties between the 2 people. Abdullah Al-Lafi, the visiting member of the Libyan Presidential Council, in his reply, said that they have just confirmed with His Excellency, the Foreign Minister, a meeting between the 2 Libyan and Moroccan consular commissions that will be held next week to settle all the problems of obtaining visas and to follow up on the flights file. According to the Moroccan minister, the issue of national reconciliation remains an essential factor to overcome the past and foster unity among all parties, especially as elections draw near in Libya. He stressed that Morocco, which has led an exemplary process in this field through the Equity and Reconciliation Commission, is willing to share its experience and guide Libya.
Away from business, in our health news today, a young Guinean woman who tested positive for Ebola virus in Ivory Coast after arriving there 2 weeks ago has recovered from the disease. According to the Ivorian Health Ministry, her diagnosis was the first confirmed case of Ebola in Ivory Coast since 1994.
Speaking to the media on Tuesday, Serge Eholi, the ministry spokesman and head of the country's infectious diseases department, said they performed on the patient 2 biological tests which were negative in an interval of 48 hours and was declared cured. The 18-year-old had traveled to Abidjan by bus from La Bay in northern Guinea, a journey of about 1,500 kilometers that traverses a densely forested region where Ebola epidemics broke out earlier this year in 2013 and 2016. The World Health Organization has identified 49 people who have been in contact with the woman, and Ivory Coast started a vaccination campaign earlier this month to target those who were in immediate contact with the patient and security forces along the border with Guinea. Ebola, which is transmitted through close contact with bodily fluids, is a fatal viral disease that causes severe fever and, in the worst cases, unstoppable bleeding. Ivory Coast is the third African country this year to have been affected by the Ebola virus after the Democratic Republic of Congo and Guinea. Her case had caused a dispute between the two countries after Guinea requested reconfirmation of her positive test, pushing Eholi to stand by his diagnosis last week.
In our sports news today, 5 Uganda under-20 Hippos players made the traveling delegation of national senior team, the Cranes, for upcoming international build-up against Ethiopia. Now, these include defenders Abdul Aziz Kayondo, Kenneth Semakula, and Gavin Chizito, left footers forward Richard Basangwa, as well as midfielder Bobosi Byarhanga.
The 5 players are part of the 19 players on the team that has team captain Emmanuel Arnold Okwi, Martin Kiza, Dennis Iguma, Murshid Juko, Enoch Walusimbi, Innocent Esimu Wafula, Abdul Lumala, and Halid Luwalila. Others are goalkeeping duo of Charles Lukwago and Joel Mutakuwa, Chafik Kuchikajimu, Ibrahim Oriti, Milton Karisa, Yunus Junior Sentamu, and Stephen Desimukwala. A number of players, including Morocco-based forward Patrick Henry Kadu, Express midfielder Muzamiru Mutiaba, URA goalkeeper Nafian Alionzi, and Mbarara City striker Jude Semgabi were ruled out because of the varying ailments. Uganda Cranes will face Ethiopia Warrior Stars on Sunday 29th August 2021 at the Bahir Dar International Stadium. The build-up is preparing Uganda Cranes ahead of the FIFA World Cup 2020 Qatar qualifiers, where Uganda is pooled in Group E alongside Kenya, Rwanda, and Mali. Uganda will travel to Kenya on 2nd September 2021 before playing Mali 4 days later at the St. Mary's Stadium, Chitende.
Thank you so much, our reporter. Now, before we end the bulletin, let's have a recap of our top stories. Judiciary launches 1.2 billion shillings medical insurance scheme for its staff. And the National Drug Authority approves another COVID herbal supplementary drug. And survivors gather in displacement camp after Tigray rebel advance. And in our sports today, 5 Hippos graduates make Uganda Cranes great for Ethiopia friendly. Thank you so much for joining us from where we started from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.